Thank you, Scott, very much for organizing this tonight. My name is Bob Hackworth. I'm the former mayor of Dunedin, and I'm really proud of my record in Dunedin because for the most part in 7 years, I followed a philosophy of being a citizen legislator, somebody who came from the private sector. I'm an owner of a small business with my family. I've got 2 young children that I'm raising in the same town that I grew up in, and actually kind of cool that I became the mayor. But as I raise those children, as Calvin said, I really want to make sure that their future in Pinellas County is bright, just like mine was. And so that's a passion that I have for being a leader in my community. And I think it serves not just my children, but it serves all of your children and your grandchildren. And that's a perspective that I think is very necessary from a citizen legislator. We did have a real good run in Dunedin. We had a budget that was always balanced. So we delivered better, faster, cheaper government services, which is what the job of the elected official is to make sure that high-quality services are delivered as cost-effectively and affordable as possible for your citizens. But I also did really take on an issue of making sure that transparency and openness and pushing for stronger ethical measures was a part of my leadership to Dunedin, and I'm very proud of all the accomplishments that we had. And of course, I'm going to say it was a good run. But the Florida League of Cities, which represents over 425 cities throughout the state of Florida, every year awards the Florida City of Excellence Award. And I was very proud in my last official act to accept that award from the Florida League of Cities. So that's a little more objective analysis of the leadership and the good governance that went on in Florida. But I do think that as we talk about the race for the county commission, there is a clear choice that you'll have before you. And I think that fiscal responsibility and the issue of special interest influence needs to be front and center of that discussion because I think it is a concern that people have. And the commissioner can talk about, well, of course I could never be influenced, and I'm not saying you are influenced. I'm saying everybody thinks you are. It's a perception that's out there. People have elected officials have a deserved reputation of being distrustful. So I want to try to do something proactive about regaining the trust of the people that I would represent. So what I said, as opposed to the business as usual and the politics of usual, which is you take the money from special interests, you take the money from developers, you take the money from people who do business with the county. Whether that's influencing your decision or not is not the point. The point is, the perception is that you can't trust the people who are supposed to be representing your best interests. And so I took just a principled, self-imposed campaign finance stand that said I would only take money from individuals, and I would take it in an amount that was no more than $100. And that's not to impute anybody who does something differently. It's to say front and center that I'm taking a stand to try to regain your trust and confidence, okay? I wasn't, investigated by a grand jury in Dunedin. Pinellas County government was investigated by a grand jury on the Jim Smith affair. So that deserved distrust, I think, needs to be rectified. And so I've taken the position that that suggests that doing business as usual is the wrong way to do business. Let's do it a better way. But as I say, fiscal responsibility has to be the most important issue that faces anybody who's looking for good representation. And I think that as it relates to my record in Dunedin, it's far superior to what happened at the county. I was trying to cut tax rates as the appropriate remedy to exploding property values. That's what you're supposed to do. I was working on that. I finally accomplished that by turning a minority position to a majority position. Ms. Latvalla's record is just the opposite. She was raising tax rates at the same time that property values were exploding. So that's a multiplier effect. And I think that's something that people should know about as far as our records go. I was walking a neighborhood not too far from here, up near the middle school, and I knocked on the door, and the guy came out and he said, who are you? And I said, I'm Bob Hackworth, the former mayor of Dunedin. I'm running for the county commission. And his first question was, well, what's your party? And I said, well, I'm a registered Democrat, but I really think that my record in Dunedin was one of nonpartisan and trying to rise above the issue. And he goes, well, Bob, I got to tell you, if Jesus our Lord showed up at my door and said he was running for public office, and he said he was a Democrat, he wouldn't get my vote. So he could have shut me up pretty quick, but I did try to enlighten him about, the records that the incumbent in this race has and my record. And at the end of that discussion, where, as I say, I was trying to cut tax rates, she was raising tax rates, he's going to vote for Jesus and me.
Jesus was an independent.
Yeah,
well,
there you go.
He said if. But like I say, I think that's something that people really do need to look at it, because times are tough right now. These are tough economic times. But we need to dig out of that ditch, and once we're out of the ditch, let's not make the same mistakes that we made in the past. Let's pay attention to those who get it. Citizen legislators, small business owners who understand the perspective of, why they're there for. And so that, on that regard, and on the issue of trying to restore trust and faith back into to the elected officials, I think that there's a winning campaign on my side. I think that that choice is going to be clear, and so I'm going to carry that forward. And as I say, you can take it personally, you can get upset about it, but the facts are the facts. Contributions from the EMS company that you'll be making a contract with, as it relates to continuing that contract. There's contributions from road builders. There's contributions from the waste management companies that are going to be bidding on the recycling contract. So it's just a matter of appearance, and I just think it's wrong. So as I say, I am ready to tackle head-on the challenge of governing Pinellas County. I'm prepared to do it. I'm prepared to do it better than it's been done in the past. And I'll look forward to getting your vote on November 2nd. Thank you.
I have a question.
That's okay.
I need my water here.
I'm a Democrat and a Republican, whichever the good guy is, I vote. You mean, do you not take any money from any of the developers or any of the ones that have cheated Pinellas County?
Well, see, I'm not going to make an accusation against the person who gives the money. I'm suggesting that good judgment is, at this point in time, to turn it down, so that you can hopefully restore some trust. So yes, I am not taking money from developers. There's a requirement on the reporting of campaign treasurer's reports, and it says if you make a donation above $100, you have to report, who you are. And you will see multiple listings of developers and builders and real estate interests on her report, and you will not see that on my report.
And why don't they, for the computer, which I'm computer illiterate, why don't they put it in the paper so I could see with my eyes who the developers are, who the Scientologies are, and all this stuff?
Well,
That would be St. Petersburg Times. They're biased.
That's not the point. That's really not the point, and that's what I'm trying to say to Ms. Latvala. It isn't what they're doing. Road builders do business to get road contracts. Oftentimes that means they make contributions, all right? But I'm suggesting again, if you've been investigated by a grand jury, you have a scandal that costs taxpayers millions of dollars, it might be a good idea to try to restore the trust and faith that people have in their elected officials. Now, Ms. Latvala apparently disagrees with me, but that's okay. That's the choice I'm trying to give the voters of Pinellas County. But I think it is outrageous that she would suggest that people are not concerned about trust and faith in elected officials. And I think it's more outrageous that she would say that the Jim Smith deal was no big deal, and that it was just blown out of proportion. Because I can tell you it was a really big deal
I know,
in this county.
I was in on it.
And as I say, there isn't a lot of credibility that elected officials have. And even the good guys who had tried to, to be able to look people in the eye and tell them they were doing the right thing were smeared by what happened there. So I would be a little more apologetic about it. I would say that maybe I made a mistake, but I wouldn't try to say it's no big deal, because it was a huge deal. Thanks.
You give me a second.
Go Hackworth.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming here this evening. As most of y'all know, unincorporated areas sometimes are treated as second-class citizens. There's a lot of issues that we face. Annexation. Palm Harbor had not had an annexation in over 25 years until the county commission recently allowed Tarpon Springs to annex almost 35 acres. There was a charter amendment that the voters had approved, 0063, that protected us, East Lake, and other communities from annexation. It got thrown out because the city sued because the county kept changing it, and you can't do that for a charter. You know, a charter is what the people vote on. You can't change that, so it got thrown out. Why it wasn't in this year's Charter Review Commission, why it wasn't, this is what the voters wanted, what they agreed to. And for some reason, the cities obviously didn't want it, the county didn't want it, it didn't come back up. But there's issues, annexation, and that we deserve to have our tax dollars come back to us. We're not second-class citizens. You know, we want our money to come back to us. We deserve it. And we ask you and we thank y'all for coming, because these issues sometimes go to the state level, sometimes go to the county level. And we're kind of like a ward almost, and the county is the guardian of our property. And we just ask you to respond in a fiduciary responsible manner. And we thank y'all for attending, and y'all have a good evening.
See you, buddy.